All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 98 at the BS Machine, and I'm your host, Tommy Kendi, and I'm really excited about this episode because I've got this really cool dude that I've just randomly got on the potty. I reached out to him yesterday. I'm like, dude, do you want to come on? And he's like, yeah, fucking oath, let's do it. And his name's Greg Sara. Some of you might know the name. He's a quite well-known DJ here in Australia. And one thing led to the next, and he became one of my coaching clients. And it happens. Sometimes it happens when your clients fucking inspire you. And Greg's one of those people that really have inspired me because he's taken the work that he's learned himself and, you know, us working together, and he's really gone next level, and I'm just so fucking proud of you, know, and he inspires me, and that's why I want to get him on, because you got such a cool story, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Greg Sara.
Thank you, buddy. What beautiful words. And 98th episode of the BS Machine, man. Congratulations. That's a great effort. Holy shit.
Thanks, brother. I know. Two more to go and I'm at 100. Never thought.
Yeah, nice. Awesome.
Yep. So,
and
dude.
I was going to say, thank you so much for coming on, for inviting me on your show, man. Like you said, you've been such an inspiration for me. As part of my journey too. So it's an honour to be here with you this morning.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, do you know what? One of the reasons I really want to get you on is because you got such a cool story, and I really relate to your story. You did it in a bit of a different way in the whole DJ world, and you pretty much got to the top of your game, and you're an incredible DJ. So that's where maybe people know you from. But give us a bit of a background of your story, and I guess, you know, because we're talking about life and mental health and all that type of stuff. Give us a bit of background of where you're coming from.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I guess I start at the beginning. I guess is probably always a good spot to begin with. I grew up in Adelaide, only child with some fairly, and it's an interesting home life. I guess the polite way of describing my parents would be that they had a passionate relationship. I said that in my podcast before. But they were a little bit dysfunctional. I guess sort of back then, a lot of people were having kids really young, and then you've sort of got children raising children, you know. So, and we don't come with manuals and stuff. So, they had their ups and downs, and I sort of spent a lot of time by myself. I sort of wanted to become a professional tennis player out of school, and ended up getting a scholarship to Miami University, and pulled out literally weeks before I was supposed to go because I got a job running a nightclub, much to my parents' disgust. But it turned out that it led into like a 30-year career for me, you know. So it was, I don't know, probably one of the worst things I've ever done. And I think leading from that, given that I'd always wanted to be a tennis player, I didn't really know what I wanted to be after that. So I was a little bit lost in sort of what I wanted to do with myself. So I just thought, well, I'll just try and do as many things as I can. So obviously DJing has been a big part of it. I'm still DJing now and producing music, but I just thought I'll try and do as many things as I could. So I worked in event management, which took me sort of all around the world. I ended up working for a company called Dun & Dusted in London. We did the first Fatboy Sim in Brighton Beach gig, and the first MTV party in Ibiza, which was pretty crazy. I then came back to Australia, and I was working for the Q-Bar group. So there was a Q-Bar in Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne. So I was the music director for a couple of them and the resident DJs. Then headed back to London again, and then spent a couple of years in China. I went over to Beijing to work on the Beijing Olympics for an event management company doing all of the corporate hospitality for the Australian government. And then went to Dubai to do the marketing and branding for an adventure company over there, which then led me to setting up my own digital agency with a mate of mine over there, which was going great guns until the GFC hit. And I think I lost $250,000 in about 3 weeks and came home with my tail between my legs, and we came back to Melbourne because it's the best city in the world. And from then on, I've just been trying to find my path, you know, like... I think during that whole course, a little bit lost and having some abandonment and attachment issues from my parents, that led into some pretty heavy drug and alcohol abuse over those 30 years running. Well, just such easy access to it all the time when you're working in nightclubs and stuff. So that sort of like kept me in the wilderness for a little while, I think. And then I got really sick. I was working I worked in the film industry for a couple of years. We did a Wolf Creek and a movie called Rogue with a mate of mine, Matt Hearn from Adelaide. And I came back, I came to work for his digital agency called Hot Glue. And we were, after COVID, things were really tough. So we were crushing crazy hours, like 8 a.m. till midnight, 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week. And just got really burnt out. I got really sick. I got a stomach ulcer, and I woke up on the bathroom floor one morning throwing up blood and just really, really burnt out. And I was like, just need to make some fucking changes here, dude. Like, I've always been really aware of my anxiety and my depression and stuff. Like, that manifested itself in at the worst of it as a young kid, like self-harming and stuff. And I've always sort of battled it, but never really made any indents in it. I saw a few psychologists along the way, but I always felt that I wasn't connected with myself. And obviously drinking and taking drugs all the time was certainly not helping that cause. But I got to the point last year where I was like, I really need to make some real efforts to lean into that. And we'd had a few sessions with you at Hot Glue. And during COVID, my roommate and I set up a little Italian cooking company, and a girlfriend of mine, Elise Marilis, came around to pick up some soup one day. And she just started becoming a life coach as well. And she said, listen, why don't you come and jump in an ice bath with me around at Lars's place? The famous Lars. He seems to be popping up everywhere at the moment.
Doesn't he? Yeah.
So she introduced me to meditation and some journaling and some bits and pieces like that. And I could really sort of really felt myself gravitating towards that and feeling, just by setting up some like a morning routine and some systems just to be really consistent, taking small steps, but doing them really, really consistently. I found myself starting to feel better and better about myself and being able to manage my anxiety in much better ways. Like things that would normally sort of make me spiral for 3 weeks, I was jumping on top of in a couple of days. So I started posting my journey on Instagram, just more out of holding myself accountable, I think. Like just to, like I'd post like, I'm going to do this in the morning. I get up at 5:30, like, right, I'm going to do this, and I'd post it, and it's like, well, now you got to do it. So, and then throughout the course of it, more and more people were reaching out to me. Like, I think especially Melbourne people, I think the PTSD of us being locked up for 2 years is really starting to sort of hit home here in Melbourne a little bit now, especially with my friends in the hospitality industry. I think once we sort of opened up, everyone was really excited and sort of swept under the rug the fact that we'd been pretty heavily emotionally abused through that period, you know, like just being locked up, no sense of community, no contact with our friends. And I think that's had a pretty heavy mental toll on a lot of people. So a lot of people in Melbourne were reaching out to me. So I said to my friend Elise, well, listen, can you send me the course that you did, or put me in touch with the people, the life coaching course you did. I wanted to stop watching so much TV, and I thought, well, studying is a good thing to do. And I thought, well, even if I don't do anything with it, I'll understand the process of life coaching and putting together routines and the tools that you can use, so that if any of my friends reach out, I'll be able to help them out a bit better. And then I ended up sort of picking up a few clients, and they went really well. So yeah, about 3 weeks ago, I quit my job, and I'm going to sort of start leaning into life coaching.
Dude, it's so good. That's literally 30 years in like 4 or 5 minutes. It's you just like rolled it in. I'm like, whoa, holy shit, that's fucking what? Yeah. That's so good, man. And so, you know what? The thing that really stuck out to me, and especially at the moment, this thing you're talking about, PTSD and anxiety and whatever, it's so interesting because anxiety in essence is just a word, isn't it? There's nothing. I mean, people talk about anxiety and depression and all that type of stuff all the time, but everyone experiences it, I believe, in different ways, in different aspects. So when you say you experienced like deep levels of anxiety where you were basically down and out for 3 weeks, what's the actual thing that happened with you when anxiety came on? And I'm not really looking for the reasons, but more so what happened within the body. You know, like what did you experience?
At its least sort of impact, lack of focus and agitation, and at its worst, fuck. Sometimes I feel like I'm having a heart attack. Like just
so
really,
the heart's going.
Yeah, really, really intense chest pains. My mind will just be spinning. I won't be able to focus on anything. I'll be really agitated. I'll be up and down and won't be able to sleep. And so yeah, it can be quite intrusive. Yeah, and it's interesting you raised that point too, man. Because anxiety is it's almost like a fingerprint, isn't it? It's quite unique for everyone, you know. So and it manifests itself in different ways. But yeah, that was mine. Mine always gets me in the chest, and it's like really hard to breathe and really, really overwhelming. Like especially when I was partying a lot. Like I was like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and it would be really, really intense, and it would keep me up for a couple of days sometimes. You know, it's just like, because that would sometimes, if I'd be triggered by something, that would manifest itself into sort of like pretty serious nightmares as well. And
yeah,
especially because like a lot of the time during that period, I'd be working a 9-to-5 job and then working on the weekends as well, DJing on the weekends. So it was like shift work. So I'd be getting up at 9 a.m. and going to bed, finishing at 5 p.m. during the week, but then starting work at 9 p.m. and finishing at 5 a.m. on the weekends. So my sleep patterns were just fucking all over the place. So that doesn't help. And then heaps of booze and drugs and all sorts of shit on top. And yeah, it was like.
So dude, that's like, I find that really weird that you have anxiety. So then in the midst of anxiety, you go out and get on the gear and fucking drink and take drugs. Like, surely, was there any part of you that was sitting there back at that time going, I'm pretty sure this is not going to make me better?
Well, obviously not. I think more of that was coming from wanting to numb pain. I think it would result in like the next couple of days being really rough and being really triggered and not being able to leave the house and stuff. But it was almost like it would give me a couple of days away from it, you know, like just being sedated and drunk and stuff. It's like okay, I can at least have some respite from it, you know. So, and I think that's a lot of my friends, I think, have fallen into that trap.
And what was your favorite drug, I guess, to get on? Like, was it coke? What was your thing?
Ecstasy was my drug of choice back in the day, definitely. What I think is, I mean, like, it's funnily enough, they're now trialing MDMA for PTSD, for returned soldiers and stuff, and having incredible results with it. And I think
that would be in a controlled environment.
In a controlled environment, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you're not dropping pingers and going to the pub going, hey!
No, it's like medically supervised. But so that and psilocybin, they're having some incredible results with testing and stuff over there. And I think even with psilocybin, they're even like they'll have it'll be like marijuana in the States soon. Like you'll have clinics and stuff like that. So it's sort of looking back at it, I think that became my favorite because it was helping me with my trauma, you know, like being so what's the word for it? Being so like having it so aggressively at times. Like I think that was the thing that I sort of really made me connect with my music and connect with people in a way that I hadn't before. Like, I think growing up as an only child too, I used to be quite insular, and I was sort of like the textbook introvert extrovert, you know. So I'd either be standing in front of 1,000 people DJing or rocking in the corner of my bedroom listening to The Cure or something. So, you know, like there didn't seem to be too much in between at that point. But I think that really started to, without really knowing it, I think that was the sort of the start of me changing as a person. Like when I first started to take, I think I saw the heavy drugs I took was LSD back in Adelaide. And I remember the first, the mate of mine, the that gave it to me, said, whatever you do, don't look in the mirror. And I got home with my girlfriend. We were still pretty cooked. And I went to the toilet and I was washing my hands and I looked up in the mirror and I looked at myself in the mirror for like an hour. And I came outside. I came out of the bathroom and I was like a completely different person. I hated the people I was hanging around with. I hated the music I was listening to. I hated the clothes I was wearing. And that was probably one of the first times I'm like, right, I need to start hanging out with some good people, you know? Like, I went to a private school in Adelaide, so very rich people that were sort of very shallow and all quite broken themselves, you know? And it's like, I just didn't like I've always sort of been quite energy focused, so I've always read people's energy or absorbed people's energy a lot, and just found that being around those sort of people was not helping me at all. So... So yeah, so that's leading into my music and that sort of that whole culture was something that really sort of, I guess initially from 19 or 20 first sort of broke those chains for me to help me start moving forward. So
yeah. And isn't it interesting when we talk about childhood trauma, and you and me have done together, we've done some work in terms of, you know, diving into childhood memories and all that type of stuff. And do you mind me sharing that one on the fence?
No.
And with me and Greg, we did a session on this childhood memory of Greg's where he was coming out of school, remember? And he was basically sitting on the fence and waiting for, you know, his mum or his dad to pick him up, and he was just sitting there and all the other kids got picked up. And this is just a childhood memory. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that there's a lot of people, I believe, that either feel like they don't need to have a look at their childhood memories or childhood trauma. And one of the things that I've definitely found is that when you actually find out in these childhood memories where you made some decisions about yourself as that little kid, what we don't realise is that we're still living by those decisions that we made as that little 4 or 5 year old little kid. Yeah. And it's so interesting when you look at different parts of your life and you're like, fuck, I'm making decisions as a fucking 4-year-old kid, you know, or a 5-year-old kid. Yeah. And then it's this way of just being aware of your memories and the decisions you made and how you cope with it and all that. But then, you know, choosing your focus. And I think one of the things that you've done really fucking well, and this is one of the reasons why you inspire me, Greg, is that you're literally like a bat out of hell. You are putting yourself to the test, you're challenging yourself, and you've literally just totally changed your focus into what you fucking love and what you love to do, which is ultimately helping people, connecting people, and music and you know, your coaching, which is now starting to really kick off, and all these things. It's just like you've become a full out manifester in terms of the good stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think I've always felt like I've always had a really good work ethic. I think that came from playing tennis, you know, like so I'd play before school, at lunch, after school, all weekend and stuff, like constantly training. So I was really lucky. I always had really strong discipline from an early child, which is one of the hardest things to work on, you know. Being disciplined is probably one of the hardest things we can do as humans, you know, because it means us being uncomfortable a lot of the time, you know, getting up early and getting in cold showers and stuff. And I've always felt that I wasn't connected to myself in some way, you know. And it's like, despite all the successes that I've had, I've always only felt that I've only been like at probably at best 70% of my ability, with the other 30% being of my energy going towards dealing with my fucking anxieties and all what other shit sort of pops up, you know. And I've always thought it'd be such a shame if I never found my true potential. So even through probably from my mid-20s, I was like, I really want to sort this out. And I worked really hard at training and eating well and stuff, in between obviously being a bit of a rat bag on the weekend. But there was always a really conscious effort there to try and fix this. And I said to a couple of my psychologists, I feel like I'm so fucking close, and I couldn't quite work it out. And I think it dawned on me after sort of reconnecting with you and working with Elise, that I was trying to do things to make myself better rather than focusing in on myself. So all my energy was going out in all these different ways, when all I needed to do was just turn the energy around 180 degrees and put it back into myself. And ever since I've done that, yeah, it's been pretty incredible, man. Now it's like I'm aggressively hunting out my fears and triggers to try and heal myself, you know. And like, it was really interesting. I did a really deep. The other thing too, I think that's really helped me with this, and through stuff that you and Elise have given me, is having the right tools to do it. You know, it's like, and that's the thing, and that's why I think that's the importance of having a life coach is so amazing. And Elise said, I interviewed Elise the other day, and she said, so many people have got a gym membership but don't have a life coach, you know. And it's like, that really struck me as something that's so important, you know. It's like, everyone's languishing a little bit in some way, or affected by a breakup or a lost a loved one or something like that they haven't healed, and it's like another little anchor holding you back from being your true self, you know. So just having those tools to be able to manage my anxiety and allow myself to dive into some of these traumas. Like, I had a really bad car accident when I was about 10 years old. I got hit by a car on my BMX and nearly bled out on the road. They were going to cut my leg off and stuff. It was really full on. And I've known that there's always been some real trauma attached to that, because I can remember bits of it, and then there's big long blank chunks of it. So I did a half an hour breath work the other night, and then like an hour long sound healing thing. And I'm like, I'm going to dive right into it. And I sat there, I saw myself on the road with the car and the whole shebang, and I got that anxiety feeling that I got. And I realized that night, it's like, that was really interesting, because when I used to fight with my dad, I'd have that same feeling. When I'd broken up with a girl, that was the same feeling. And I was starting to think, it's like, well, if these are all different stimulus, shouldn't the result be a little bit different? But I was just presenting the exact same feeling every single time. And I was like, that was a bit of a turning point for me, actually. Like, just realizing it's like, all of this anxiety that I'm feeling when I'm being triggered by being abandoned or disrespected, or my boundaries being crossed, which come from my parents or the car accident, it's all stemming from this one incident. All the symptoms are exactly the same. So it's like, I'm just transferring it onto all these different situations. So I was just a friend of mine put me on a book called The Body Heals Itself by Bertolt van der Kolk, I think it is, who goes into sort of trauma. And like we were saying the other day, it's like, when you have a traumatic experience or something that gives you anxiety, it puts some glasses or like a lens over that you then look through the world in like that, and then you project that onto everyone else. And realizing that I was doing that out of my childhood trauma onto all these different things was like, okay, so that's given me like a trick point of what I need to work on, you know. There's like, it's almost like I finally found the source of where a lot of my stuff's coming from. And even that in itself was, even though I know I've still got some work to do, just knowing where to punch is now it's like, well, that's we're halfway there, you know. So
yeah. So then, I mean, the question then becomes is, you know, as we both know, there's so many people that spend their whole fucking life digging. They're trying to look for trauma and look for this and whatever, right? And so in your experience, once you brought these things to the surface and you've realised some of your traumas and you've realised some of the memories and whatever, and the lenses, as you said, what are you doing? What do you do then once you found out the trauma?
Well, I've just been working on, like, a lot of my stuff comes from abandonment issues, I think. So I'm just sort of, at the moment, I'm spending a lot of time just hunting out my inner child and just being present with him. I've sort of realised, I had a bit of an epiphany last night, actually, that I think I pushed a lot of my abandonment issues onto external forces, but I've sort of now realised that a lot of my abandonment issues have come from myself. Like, I abandoned myself by partying too much and not being present and not looking after myself. You know, I was just numbing everything rather than trying to help. So
you're taking like pretty much responsibility for all of it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, yeah. So, and that was a tough couple of hours. I must admit.
It is, isn't it?
But that's the thing about this journey, as you know, man. Like, I think you and I have such a beautiful synergy because we've had very similar sort of upbringings. This work is about just being horrifically honest with yourself. You know, It's like you can't cheat yourself. You know, like you've really got to sit down and look at yourself and get present. And I mean, that was even hard for me. Like, I was probably like an undiagnosed ADD kid as a child. So even I think a lot of this stuff that I've been introduced to years and years ago, but just always put it off because I thought, oh, that won't work for me. I can't sit still. I can't do that. Meditation, good luck. So, but now that and it did take me a little while to get used to it. But now that I have, it's like I really such a deeper understanding of myself and how I work, and just by sitting with myself and being peaceful. And the thing I love about all this stuff too, man, is it's all fucking free, you know, like getting in the ice with Lars. I build a shower out the back here in my backyard, so I have a cold shower every morning. I do some meditation, I do some journaling. Even journaling, I thought, what's fucking journaling going to do? But it's just been incredible. Like, it's like defragging your brain, you know, just writing it out on paper, and it's sort of like just frees up some of your brain space. And I think that's really important too. It's like there's a song called Bergs by St. Wolf that he talks about how we make our lives so unnecessarily messy and complicated, you know, and it's like it makes it so hard to function, especially emotionally, when we're so disconnected and disjointed and manic in our brains, you know. It's like everything started to change for me when a girlfriend of mine, Janet, is a really amazing organizational psychologist, and she said one of the things I tell all my CEOs to do is just get connected with your own energy first in the morning. Like, wake up an hour. Said even if you just sit in the backyard and have a coffee for an hour, but just do some deep breathing and just get really present, because I think a lot of us were getting up during COVID and waking up and going straight on to Zoom meetings and stuff, and you're allowing all these other people's energies into yours before you've actually got control of yourself, you know. So I think it's really important that we just spend that little bit of time to be present. Like, we're also, I mean, I think sort of we've never been so connected as we are at this point in history, you know, with phones and stuff. But at the same time, I don't think we've been more disconnected as a community, you know.
Yeah. And I love that to wake up and use the first first few minutes to reconnect with the body. And you know what I mean, some people even think that it's that's a hard thing to do, or they don't believe that they're that type of person or whatever. But some mornings I wake up and I just fucking whack myself all over. It's like, oh, there's my body. How you going?
Yeah,
just give yourself, great, and immediately you're just like, fucking hell, I feel fucking awesome. You know, just whacking yourself 10 or 20 times, you know?
Yeah.
And also I saw this really interesting analogy the other day, or someone shared something with me where it was that this whole idea with a lion, you know, if a lion from birth is brought up in a cage and it lives in a cage and it exists in a cage and it eats in a cage, and it's been in a cage for its whole entire life, for whatever, 5 years, 6 years. But the reason that they lock the cage is because they know that the lion instinctively knows that there's a whole other world out there. Yeah. Even though it's never seen it, it's been caged in this whatever, you know, however many meter cage. Yeah. But it instinctively knows there's this whole other fucking world out there that's super exciting. There's shit to do. There's wilderness. It's just ever expanding, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that's what a lot of us are like. Like, we've been brought up in these cages.
Totally,
and because of society and beliefs and this and that and the other. And it's like we all know intuitively that there's this whole other world out there.
Yeah.
And we're scared to leave our cage because it's fucking scary. Because as you said, when you leave the cage, there's probably going to be a lot of people in your life right now that aren't going to be there if you leave the cage. It's going to be a whole different energy. You're going to be and it's fucking scary. Like, sometimes it is easier just to go, nah, you know what, I've got my food here, I've got my little safe cage. I'll just hang out here for another few years.
Yeah, like 30. Fuck.
I know. And you said something really cool to me the other day, or yesterday in our session yesterday, where you were like, Tommy, like, you know, I've done all the drugs in the world, whatever else. He's like, and you said, I don't, like, the work that I've done this morning, I meditated, I went, you know, did the ice bath, I journaled and whatever, I can't remember what else he did. He goes, I feel better than any fucking drug that I've ever had.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's really crazy. Like, you've mentioned some really good points in there, man. But yeah, like, fuck, I spent 30 years coming home at 5:30 in the morning, and now I'm, or even starting to DJ at 5:30 in the morning, and now I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and all my friends are like, how the fuck are you doing that? It's like 50-year-old DJ that sort of turns his life around, and it's like, it's as, if not more addictive than any drug I've ever done. Like, getting up in the dark, and I like to go bike riding in the morning, and like seeing the sunrise over St Kilda Beach and riding along with fucking some SoundCloud mix on my headphones, coming home, having a cold shower, doing some journaling and stuff, and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, fuck, you're ready to just fucking punch holes in walls, man. It's crazy.
So
you know? And then that gives you that mental strength to tackle your anxieties and your traumas and your day-to-day life and all that sort of stuff with a lot more gusto. And you speak a lot about intuition too, which is so important as well. I was talking to one of my clients yesterday about it, and it's like, I said to her, it's like, I realized that my anxiety would sometimes represent the same feeling as my intuition, like that feeling in the stomach. So when I would be in the grips of my anxiety, it was like it would take my compass away from me, and now I would know if this is my intuition or is my anxiety talking. And it's like, when you're not connected with yourself, they can be really easy to mistake, you know. Like, when I haven't been present, I've been DJing a lot. Like, at times I was DJing 4 or 5 nights a week. So I was like, couldn't be more disconnected from myself. And then I started to like doubt my intuition and my feelings, and it was hard to make decisions, and I'd choose the wrong things a lot of the time. When I think deep down, I knew that it was like I was doing the wrong thing, but it was like my wires were so crossed, I couldn't differentiate between what was happening in my stomach and what was happening in my head, you know. So yeah, so just doing this. Just setting up in I start all my clients off with just like a little small morning routine, you know. Let's just get up a little bit earlier. It's really easy. I'll give you some meditation things to do and some breath work, and we'll start with that, you know, like, and then just sort of like I call it habit stacking, you know. You just start adding more and more and more onto it, you know. And I think that a lot of people sort of get discouraged with this process because they think it's going to be linear. Like, if you go to the gym, you're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, where I think this process is a little bit more like snakes and ladders, you know. So I've become more systems orientated than goals orientated. So it's like, I've got to get up in the morning, I'm going to do some stuff, but every morning I wake up, I'll listen to my body, and I'll decide what I want to do then. Because if you swim, like, some nights I've gone to bed and gone, right, I'm going to go swim 30 laps tomorrow, and I wake up and I don't do it, then you get disgruntled and you don't want to, then you sort of lose your motivation. But sometimes if I wake up and I've had a really anxious sleep, sometimes getting up and getting in the shower and brushing my teeth is a fucking win. You know, like, if you're having a really shit day, it's like, it's just listening to your body and knowing what is an achievement for you today, you know. And as long as you do something, it's like, man, sometimes just getting vertical is a win, you know. Like, so I just sort of like just take every day at a time. And, you know, the other thing I think people forget too is that resting is an activity as well, you know. It's
big time.
It's really important to rest, you know. I think a few people I know that have sort of tried to go on this path have had very hectic jobs and then tried to do all of this work on top of it, and it's like you're burning yourself out even more, you know. Like, you need to schedule in, you know, equal parts rest and time away from social media and reading more and just journaling. I love the fact of journaling, that it's organic. Like, actually writing something with your hand, I think, is really therapeutic. I sat up and journaled for about an hour last night, actually. It was just like, I just couldn't stop writing. It's like, just because it's getting away from phones and computers and stuff, and just like Yeah, I think stepping back into some of those, going back to the sort of like old world things is really good for your head when going through these sort of journeys, like bike riding and walking and writing stuff on paper and, just get a bit old school with it.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because with the journaling thing, I actually look back over my journal over the last year or whatever, and there's actually a few posts in there where I didn't know what to write, but I actually started it by saying, I got nothing for your journal. I don't know what to write. But anyway, and I just start writing, and then there's fucking 5 pages.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah. So it is. It's like a journal can be such a beautiful friend because it's like it doesn't judge you. It just lets you dump, and it's fucking cool, and you're not doing it for anyone. And if you want to share it with people, great, share it. But it's just a dump. It's allowing you to let shit go. It's fucking beautiful.
That's an amazing way of putting it. It's a beautiful friend. It really is. It's always there from you.
Yeah.
It never judges you. It's like, it's really, that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Yeah. It's like, it's become one of my most important parts of my sort of little routines at the moment, I think, man. I think initially like ice baths and just getting up in the morning were, because that helped me, that pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I think the ice baths really made me confront some fears and gave me some self-belief that I'm like, fuck, dude, you just sat in a fucking thing of ice for 5 minutes. What the fuck? And just getting some, I always lacked a lot of self-pride and self-love and stuff. So doing some stuff like that, like showing up for myself and getting in some ice and doing things that scare me have been really important for me to start getting some of that self-love back, And that was always really confusing for me because all of my friends who, a lot of them I trust their word and regard them as some of the most amazing humans I've ever met, always say how amazing I am. And it's like, well, why don't I believe it? It's like there was always this massive self-doubt and I always get awkward when anyone paid me compliments and stuff because I think it's like, I don't even know who you're fucking talking about. This is like, it can't be me. So yeah, sort of developing that self-love again and some respect and some healthy boundaries and stuff like that. I had no boundaries, so that was people, I would get used by people a lot and stuff. So starting to sort of implement some of those things just started to like eventually keep growth, make my growth happen quicker. So it was, it's been amazing, man.
Oh, it's so good, so good. And so, you know what? I mean, especially now, there's so many people, women, men, old, fucking young, ugly, beautiful, fat, skinny. There's such a big part of our civilization that's really trying to expand, and a lot of I know instinctively, and I see it, and you would too, that a lot of people at the moment are being called to pretty much upgrade themselves.
Totally.
To stop this old way of thinking, old way of functioning, and just fucking upgrade, like the lion leaving the cage.
Yeah.
And so along with that does come anxiety, does come fears, does come all this type of stuff, right?
Totally.
Because you've just gone through a pretty epic transformation over the last 6 to 12 months. And so you're very much so in that place where you've left the cage and you're like, wow, there's this whole other fucking world out there. How exciting is it?
Yeah.
And so what's the advice you would give people that are maybe still, let's say, I'm just going to use getting on the fucking piss, getting on the gear, like out there rocking it, just putting a blanket over or putting blinkers on. What's the thing? Like what is it? What's going to punch them out of that dumbass shit?
That's a tough one. I mean, Elise and I say all the time, it's like real change happens when you get sick of putting up with your own shit.
Yeah.
I think that's where I got to, and I think other people I know got to. It's like, fucking hate this shit now, and I just want to be better. And I think a lot of people put it off because like our intuition tells us, oh, this is going to be fucked. I'm going to have to dig up some shit that I don't want to look at and stuff. And it's like you said, it's easy just to sit in the cage and get your little bowl of steak and like not worry about it. But it's like the transformation that it's had on me has has just been incredible, man. Like to start functioning. I know I've still got a long way to go. I know that, but it's like to start functioning in the way that I have, to have the self-confidence to quit my job and want to help other people in the way that this has helped me, and help guide them through that. You know, like you saw me yesterday. I was ready to like rip the fucking doors off the house, and then like 2 nights ago, I sat in bed and cried for 2 hours. You know, so it is a game of snakes and ladders, but you're always moving forward. You know, all of those tears are letting go of some past traumas, and fuck, I think I've cried more in the last 6 months than I have in the last 10 years. And I've got 3 cancers in moon, 3 moons in Cancer, so I don't mind a cry.
Yeah.
But it's just been, I think when that stuff locked up inside you for so long, it's going to be traumatic coming out. You know, it's like imagine having a splinter in your foot for fucking 30 years. You know, it's going to be pussy and festering and stuff, and it's gonna be a bit of a process getting that out. You know. But every day I wake up and it's like I bless myself that I've done this commitment and just changed fucking everything. And the beauty about it is too, man, that it starts to roll into all different, as you know, it rolls into different parts of your life. Like you start waking up and you feel better, so then you want to drink less, and then you want to eat healthier, and you want to exercise more, and you want to go to bed early, and you don't want to be on your phone, and you put your computer away because you want to read, and like it really starts snowballing, doesn't it? Once you start getting your brain on that path, it starts to crave good stuff, you know, rather than, you know, I got rid of Uber Eats off my phone. And it's just like all these, now, like I said, now I'm aggressively hunting. Right, how can I change my life? Right, you out, give me that. No, copy out, done, smoothies in, like, you know, like, it's crazy. It's like, because you're like, rocket ships need rocket fuel, you know, so the better you can power yourself to get through it, the quicker the process is going to be, and the more effective it's going to be, and the more enjoyment you're going to have out of life. And yeah, it's like it's been hard, but it's been fucking amazing.
Dude, love it. Such a good journey, and I know that you being so upfront, you being so honest, will even if it just hits one person that goes, fuck, you know what, I just want to make a change. I'm sick. What'd you say? I'm just fucking sick of myself.
Sick of putting up with my own shit. Yeah.
Sick of putting up with my own shit. Yeah. And it's true. That's when change happens, when it becomes more painful to sit in your shit than it does to move forward. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I was just going to say, yeah, and I think stuff like this is really important. So kudos to you, man. Like having guys talking and being vulnerable and talking about their issues and their mental health and crying and stuff like that. Like we probably both grew up in that generation where it's like, oh, you're a fucking fag if you cry or something, you know? It's like you weren't allowed to show emotions and stuff like that. And then I look at my parents' generation, it's like, how'd that work out for you? You know, like, you know, shit house. You're all divorced and unhappy and fucking taking Valium every day and stuff like, you know, I think it's, especially now, it's really important with male, especially with male suicide being one of our highest killers of men from 35 to 50 or something. It's like, it's so important that we open these doors for people to have these sort of conversations, or even just witness other men having these sort of conversations and know that it's all right and it's okay to be vulnerable, and fucking chicks dig it, you know. So it's like it's a win.
True that, man. True that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's your birthday. Is it your birthday today?
It was last week.
Week.
Yeah, but my girlfriend and mine, Elise, who I've spoken before, it's her birthday next week. So we split the difference, and we're doing a little birthday rave out at the third day in Flemington. So awesome, I'm about to go and get frocked up and go and do some dancing. So
I love it, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on, Greg. It's been awesome. So I'll put, guys, I'm going to put all of Greg in the notes, in the episode notes, where you can reach out to Greg. If you want to reach out to him for some coaching or whatever else, you can hit him up. But man, like, I just really want to acknowledge you, bro, for allowing me to be part of your journey, and it's such a cool thing when someone you're meant to be coaching starts to inspire you. It's fucking awesome, man. So I'm really honoured that you came on the potty, but two, that we got to know each other. You're an inspiration, not just to me, but to a lot of people, bro.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot. And say, man, I wouldn't be where I am today without your help. So thank you very much, man. And And I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Easy, brother.
All right,
See you,
have a great
Greggy.
day, man. See you, brother.